We all have our favorite moments in gaming. Sometimes it's a game you played for the very first time, others could be an emotional moment within a game itself. That's the basis of this episode here. I've chosen 10 big moments that I had in Sega's games. There is no real criteria to be set here. These are just feel-good moments that I remember often and all mean something special to me. I had a lot of fun making this one, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Seeing Virtua Fighter 2 for the first time was a heck of a thing. To go from flat shaded polygons of the first to this beautifully rendered, fully texture mapped visual experience was a true shock to the senses. The game was damn hard too. I mean, the arcade version was nasty to newcomers, and the home version actually had a learning mode AI that was designed to find a weakness in your game. When you finally got good enough to see the final stage, it was underwater in slow motion against that metallic chick of death, Bhall. Partly hilarious and partly infuriating, you had to watch the devastation play out slowly. You could see her counters coming and yet could do nothing about it. The beautiful animations played out at a snail's pace, playing havoc with your timing, combos, and counters. Worse, when you lost, there was no chance to continue. You were greeted with a game over screen and you needed to do it all over again. When you finally did get that win, it was a reason to rejoice, because Bhall was never a pushover and was often a combo away from sending your ass back to the title screen. Her stage and her challenge level remain some of the most memorable battles in any fighting game I've ever played. Yeah, I know, Capcom developed Strider in the arcade, but it was Sega that developed the Genesis version, and it's there that these memories are most powerful. Strider had been a great looking and sounding title back then. The hang gliding in, the crazy enemies and stages, it was all as arcade as you could get at the time. But it was the second stage that is forever burned into my memories. As you climb your way to the top of a snow-covered mountain, you do away with an enemy at the summit, and now you must take a fateful run as explosions light up the ground you are treading. Stop and you are dead. Miss the jump at the end and you are dead. The music plays out excitedly to the run as well, adding to the drama. Heck, so impressive was this in 1990, I'd just eat a death or two so I could see it a couple of times. The arcade was home, and it felt great to be a Sega fan. Beat-em-ups were nothing new in 1991, but that didn't stop Streets of Rage from being special. From its amazing soundtrack to its great gameplay, it was a great experience for old and new Sega fans alike. But what really sold the entire thing for me was the end of the game. I played this co-op with most of my friends and family. We'd battle through the streets together until we got to the very end and met Mr. X himself. As most of you know, he offers you a chance to become his right-hand man. And if you choose yes, this dude double crosses you and sends you back to stage 6. But it's the multiplayer ending that really sets it apart. If you and your partner disagree at the offer, you must battle one another similar to the ending of Double Dragon. This battle isn't over some girl either, because if you win, you then get a chance to take down Mr. X yourself and take his position. Defeat him and the city is yours to do with as you please. You become the bad guy, complete with a throne and everything. It was the ultimate ending to a great game. were a lot of emotional moments in the original Panzer Dragoon. The music, the feeling of flight, it was one heck of a great way to start off your journey with Sega Saturn. But for me, it was the opening cinema that just tugged at the old heartstrings. There you are, insignificant in the world, and suddenly thrust into greatness. Wrong place at the wrong time maybe, but when you meet up with the dragon and that iconic music is covering the action, you feel it when the lone dragon rider is fatally wounded. He passes on his knowledge, telling you that his dragon knows the way, and falls from his perch. The dragon then cries out in anguish, but the mission must go on. You take your place as his new companion, and the adventure continues. This opening story was one of the more potent experiences I had that year, and one of the reasons I loved my Saturn.
Mesquis.
The importance of story in RPG and adventure games cannot be denied. Often it's the opening of that story that makes or breaks the initial hook, and boy does Shenmue have a doozy. Landy shows up and beats your dad down, and in the process shows you just how pitiful your fighting skills are. We get some composition about what he's looking for and how pathetic everyone is, and then he kills your dad. It's point blank one of the best openings for a bad guy ever, and I instantly hated the dude enough to actually play through 3 games to finally get my shot at revenge. That revenge never came, and Landy is still out there, smug in his deeds and laughing at my complete failure as an avenging angel.
Father! Why you... Now then. No matter how often you ask, I'll never tell. No, don't! Hand over the mirror. Or else, your son.
Sega's racing games are an iconic part of its history. There are so many great ones you could easily fill a top 10 racing games list with just games from their stable of offerings. It's Daytona II that sticks out the most for me, however. Playing this game for the first time was an experience all its own, but it's the second track that takes place in the amusement park that was one of the most memorable. From the moment you start, you are greeted with a giant wooden ship swinging above your car, and then proceed to drive through roller coasters, a massive sci-fi battle, and a few other themes as well. I mean, this stage has so much going on, it distracts you quite a bit, which can often lead to crashing into the wall. I mean, this stage alone was worth playing the game for, and I remember screaming out to my buddies while we were racing, asking them if they were seeing all the cool stuff going on. It was a powerful display that made it clear the Model 3 arcade board was no joke, and I was super excited to get a home port of it on my Sega Dreamcast. I have long argued that the characters make or break an RPG game. I mean, you have to care about their quest, their past, or their motives in order to have any drive to help them see it through. Phantasy Star II was a game with a great story, and it was one of the first times a video game ever broke my heart. Your longtime companion Neves was with you from the very beginning in this adventure, and you surely thought she'd be with you until the end. Sega had other ideas, however. killing her off in a boss battle while you helplessly watch. To make matters worse, because she is a hybrid of human and monster DNA, you can't resurrect her, leaving your only option to bury her and move on. Everyone loves to talk about Square killing off a beloved party member in Final Fantasy VII, but Sega did it years earlier. To this day, I still resent the heck out of not being able to save her. I adore Skies of Arcadia. I mean, I could have filled up this entire episode of just moments from that one game. But it's the battle between your ship Littlejack and the Ark Whale Rocknum that really got me invested. With its captain hell-bent on revenge for the death of his son, you push forth to bring the great beast down. But while in the middle of battle, one of your enemies sneak attacks you, fatally wounding the Littlejack. On fire and breaking up, the only thing its crew can do is to escape in lifeboats. Leaving behind the ship that you called home for half the game, you watch in horror as it sinks beneath the clouds. The Valuans aren't done yet and begin to fire on your lifeboats, separating you from the rest of your friends. You wake up after the crash, landing on a small island. Your ship destroyed, your captain lost, and your friends nowhere to be found. It was an emotional roller coaster that set up the second half of the game perfectly. There are a lot of Sega fans that point to this moment as the dream realized for 3D Sonic, but it was actually picking up Sonic Jam on the Sega Saturn that was that moment for me. Sonic World was sort of a mini-game within the compilation that allowed you to run around as Sonic and explore its various content. The thing is, this was a point-blank excellent example of what could have been had Sega had their heads in the right place. This was a 3D Sonic running around in a 3D world that played and moved like you expected it to. It looked like you would have expected a 3D Sonic title to look too. No weird fisheye lens, no strange stage design with rotating levels, just a cohesive world showing you what could have been. This was the moment that answered for me what Sonic could have been in 3D for the Sega Saturn. Game endings were often simple things back in the 16-bit era, particularly early on. So when I finally got good enough to see the final boss in The Revenge of Shinobi, you can imagine my surprise when I see a young woman running back and forth in the background. Then I notice the ceiling is lowering down. Then it finally dawns on me, she's gonna get crushed if I don't defeat this dude fast enough. Alas, while my battle was just and my purpose without question, my skill had not yet been strong enough to stop the inevitable. The ceiling closed down and there was no more movement. I finished the fight, but I knew it was all for nothing. The ending cinema plays out my failure and I hang my head in shame. You of course could get a better ending, but this was the first one I got and the most memorable. It was a sobering reminder that not every story had a happy ending and that video games were growing up. So there we are guys, some of my favorite memories as a Sega fan. Since I've been in the hobby for a while and played just about everything, I could probably do this for just about every company and piece of hardware out there. If you enjoyed this and would like to see more, let me know down in the comments and I'll see what I can do. I'd also love to hear some of your favorite memories in Sega games. This stuff was a pretty big part of our growing up, so it can be just about anything. That's always the best part about sharing these stories. Not just hearing someone agreeing with you, but seeing something from an entirely different perspective. Variety, they say, is the spice of life. I'd argue it's the same for the hobby we hold most dear. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.